Let me preface this video by saying, number one, I'm not entirely sure I'm going to put this video up. And number two, that I want to discuss somewhat, probably at the end of it, the thought processes involving that sort of decision. And number three, that this hypothesis is something that occurred to me today, and I haven't really worked through it as much perhaps as some of the other things I present, but I throw it out there anyway as just that hypothesis. It occurs to me that one might conceive of the first and eighth law functions as the things you can do at the same time. Your area of multitasking capacity. So I can do up to a point. I can do extroverted sensing stuff. Let's say what I did a couple days ago, which is take all the shit out of the garage and then put most of it back in, rearranging things. That's some SE stuff, right? It's very SE because it even has a nice kind of need to finish it. Like, you don't want to leave all the shit outside once it gets dark, so you've got kind of a ticking clock and you're trying to get it all done. Following through on getting it all done. Following through could also be interpreted to mean completion. So in this video, I'm going to talk about this 1-8 multitasking idea, and then I also want to talk a little bit about a possible argument people might make about my understanding of SE and my response to that. So first of all, the 1-8. I can do shit like move stuff out of the garage and concurrently be thinking about cognitive functions up to a point. And once I reach that point, if I'm thinking too hard about something, I will literally stop moving, because what happens is I forget what it is I was doing, basically. You have to have at least a little bit of SI attention towards what you're doing, reminding yourself where you're going. Kim provides that for me when we leave the house in the car, because invariably, when we get in the car to go someplace, the first thing that happens is I drive away from the house is I say, where are we going? Because when that issue was decided, like, okay, we're going to Denny's or something. As soon as that was determined, and I started getting up and moving around, I resumed my extroverted intuition. I said, all right, now let me ideate some. The SE follow-through occurs because the only attention I'm devoting towards the SE follow-through is you're leaving the house. Get your stuff and go to the car, right? The fact that we're going to Denny's is irrelevant to the SE right then. So my NE is free to do other stuff. My SI is not engaged because I'm not paying attention again and again to what we're already decided to do and following through on that, because I've chunked it off to the smallest amount possible of follow-through things I have to keep in mind. I know I'm getting my keys in my wallet and we're going someplace. That's all I need to remember until I get to the car. And then I need to remember where we're going. So often I'll get to the car and I'll ask him when we start driving where we're going, or a lot of times it'll go like this. I get in the car, we start driving and go, where are we going? Oh, that's right, Denny's. All in one fell swoop, right? The point being that because I'm an action type, I know naturally how to make the action functions complement each other and or coexist. And so it is the case also that ESTPs can, while ideating, do stuff. And it would make sense that it would be the case for everybody, because for everybody, they share, the 1 and 8 slot functions share a kind of function. If you're an SI DOM, you got NI 8. If you're an NI DOM, you got SI 8. If you're a TI DOM, you got FI 8. If you're an FI DOM, you got TI 8. If you're an FE DOM, you got TE8, then if you're TE DOM, you got FE8, then if you're an NE DOM, you got SE8, and if you're an SE DOM, you got NE8, and if you're an SI DOM, you got NI8. So the point is, knowers specialize in a form of knowledge, but because they're knowers, they're invariably well aware of how the other knowledge function integrates into the world. They may not exactly like it or feel as though it ought to be prioritized as much as it is, but they're comfortable putting one of those two things on autopilot and can rely upon it being a reliable autopilot. So INTP is not going to ultimately run afoul of what's truly important to them, because they can feel and they can both have an interested and disinterested calculus at the same time. Once you get down to the tool function, it's an entirely different ballgame. Tool function NI means polar SI. Tool function TI means polar FI. So if it's your nature to be a doer, then the other kind of doing is great. It's your autopilot that is effective. But if you're a tool function doer, then that means you have a blindness to the other kind of doing, because instead of being a doer, you're doing a doer. And as a consequence, you don't understand doing, you use doing. So anyway, by this 1/8 thing, we would then say that the deliberators are good deliberators regardless of the manner of deliberation, whether it's interested or disinterested. The knowers are effective knowers regardless of the manner of knowing, whether it's particularist or universalist. The interfacers are good at interfacing regardless of whether it's social or systems, and the actors are good at acting regardless of whether it's physical or metaphysical. However, they will, at least most of the time, consciously or vocally countervalue or at least undervalue the other action or the other kind of function that's their dominant function. Okay, so then the other thing I wanted to say about on this video before I end it is about SE and follow through. One might very well argue and make a very good point here that if SE is all about follow through, Eric, why is it then that ESTPs are flaky, or ESFPs too? They're not particularly reliable. It would seem to me that if FE were about follow through, they'd be reliable. Well, my answer to that is this. If you're an SE DOM, what that simply means is that no matter what else is going on, you're always or almost always... What? What do you mean road closed? Where is it closed? What? God damn it. Alright, so if you're an SE DOM, what that means is you're always either initiating actions or in the process of executing actions. And the process of executing actions is a reality in which a given action is not instantaneously done. It's not like a status change on the turn-based level where there's no duration to changing the status except the duration of the communicative processes that earn that status change. What the fucking hell? I can't go anywhere around here right now. It's like they've got all the roads blocked off. Fucking goddamn it. Anyway, so follow through then simply means persistence in a given action already initiated. It doesn't mean that SE-DOMs are necessarily good at reliably following through on what they say or something like that. That's a different matter entirely. What I'm saying is simply that an SE-DOM is always either doing or initiating a new do. And whereas, for example, an NE-DOM is always ideating or initiating a new ideation session or something. But the exception to this always thing is if a type experiences trauma, they tend to go into their fourth slot function. So an SE-DOM experiencing trauma will retreat into NI and try to focus on what's true. In other words, try to anchor themselves in universality of meaning rather than particularist impacts of action. Action without meaning is just brutishness. Meaning without action is just illusion or something. I don't know. So a knower, like Kimberly, she's always knowing. It doesn't mean she's right. Just like an SE-DOM is always following through, it doesn't mean they're reliable. So that's the explanation for that. I don't know if this video is going to go over or not. I'll have to review it.